All right, I think we shall begin. Hello, everyone. Glad you can make it today to this webinar, Enhanced Operational Risk Management and Compliance. My name is Janet Berenji, and I work at Sofigate. As a matter of fact, I'm in our Stockholm office at the moment. Everybody's working from home, it seems, so I'm pretty safe in here. But to some practical details, this webinar will be around 1 hour long. During the progression of the webinar, you're welcome to write any of your questions or comments in the chat box. Let's see if I can write something to you, and then you can see over here. And I thought we could give it a try by you guys maybe sharing from what city you're sitting in at the moment. How many are sitting in Stockholm or maybe Copenhagen? Or maybe on Mars, what do I know? At home, Stockholm. Awesome. Same here. Okay. Ulf Jansson. Hi, Stockholm. Hi, Ulf. Welcome. Welcome, Amir, as well. Glad to have you here. Okay. Great. So, like I said, my name is Janet, and I will be checking the chat box now and then to see if you have any questions, and then we will address them in the end. Approximately when there's 10 to 15 minutes left of the webinar, we will address them and opt to answer as many as possible. Let's see if I can see the screen here. Great. So a lot of things going on here. So today we have our two speakers, one from Sofigate, Peter Jonsson, who is the IRM lead. And we have David Hyborn from ServiceNow, the Solution Sales Manager, Risk and Security Nordics, ServiceNow. So welcome. And we have our host for today, Anders Westberg, also from Sofigate. So Anders, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Janet. I was just thinking, did you mention something about the polls that we will run?
No, thanks for reminding me. There will be one poll in the middle of Peter's presentation, and then you will see something popping up on the screen with a question, a multiple choice question, so you can be welcome to answer that, and you can do that anonymously if you want to, of course. And you can also, if you have your questions and comments that you would like to write anonymously, you can do that as well.
Okay, great. So please answer the polls when they pop up so we can get some feedback on your thoughts. So as Janet mentioned, I will be the host, which basically means I will kick this off and then hand over to people who have more insights on the topic. So the agenda looks like this. We will move into the actual topic in a few minutes. I'll just run some information around Sofigate, who we are and what we do in this market space when it comes to operational risk and compliance in GRC. So we will be finished around just before 1 o'clock Swedish time, 2 o'clock Finnish time for those who are joining from there. And like we said, put your answers in the chat and we'll hopefully have a good Q&A at the end. So what about Sofigate? Yeah, we are a Nordic company with presence in Finland, Sweden, and Denmark. We are today around, well, over 600 employees and professionals within the areas of management services and technology solutions specifically. We use our own framework called Business Technology Standard as a framework of helping customers to transform their the digitalization, to take demands into the business and then launch them as services. And of course, we always use cutting edge platforms as the end result when you want to sort of enable what you have transformed. So ServiceNow is, of course, one of our key platforms when it comes to different types of workflow. And today's topic will focus on how you can leverage that platform for risk management, operational risk, governance risk and compliance, etc. So more about that in a few minutes. We've been working with ServiceNow for over 10 years now. Sofigate was introducing ServiceNow in the Nordics in 2009, and from there we have grown as a company along with ServiceNow, not as rapidly, of course, because ServiceNow is a global operation and a global standard for different types of workflow. But Sofigate has grown with ServiceNow, and today we have a number of experts, 150 plus within the platform, and we focus, of course, except risk, which we'll talk about today, the typical areas of IT, enterprise service management, customer service management, and of course, putting a nice employee experience on top of everything. So we're a full service partner, helping you with implementation, but also training and continuous support and development, and also if you want to get your ServiceNow platform licenses through us as a reseller. I mentioned before that we have our management services and our technology solutions. You can also translate that into having an operational excellence, which is all about setting a strategy, a roadmap, to have an operating model which helps you to interact with the different units in your company to take your demands and deliver them as services. And when you come to the process design, there is a natural handover to implement that in a platform like ServiceNow, and that's what we call business automation. IT, of course, HR workflows, as I mentioned, customer workflows, and different types of automation on top of that. But the focus for today's presentation is how to use the platform for enhanced risk and compliance management. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Petter for kicking off the theme of today.
Thank you, Anders. Yeah. My name is Petter Jonsson. I will try to share my screen so I can get this going like that. And the objective today is to talk about enhanced risk management and compliance. And we're taking the scope to take our knowledge from helping customers doing this today with ServiceNow, and also some general problems you can run into and some key takeaways. So I will start off with looking at this picture. Even though I don't think all organizations are picturing themselves as a race car, but I like the resemblances here. And a race car is all about winning the race, right? And you want to drive as fast as possible. But it's not only about having the fastest engine that's going to determine who wins the race. Because the fastest cars also need the best brakes. And with the race car, it's a lot about, of course, driving fast, but also to manage all the obstacles on the track, all the competitors driving next to you. You have different settings on the tires, you have different controls on the engines that are managing all this. And this is a lot about managing risks and controls with the race car to establish, to win the race. You cannot only drive fast. And I think risk and compliance is about that, to handle the right information to take the right decisions. And around the race car, it's not only the driver that drives it that is affected, it's also the team around it. And the entire team are focusing on all of these details to get the right setting, to have the right workflows, but also their mindset are focused on limiting risks and controlling this to achieve the goal to win the race, to enhance the driver's possibilities to take the right decisions to win the race. So it's a lot about the mindset. For the race car, all of them have the same focus. It's also about the design of the workflows. If they're gonna change the tires, they have determined workflows to work as effective as possible. They also have workflows around how to measure all of these settings and how to test and try out all the different settings to achieve the best possible outcome. And of course, they have the technology. The race car itself, it's important to win the race. And for a race car, all of these three has to interact and be set up in a perfect way to achieve the best outcome. And we believe it's the same for all organizations. So in an organization, it's a lot about taking the right path. And it's based on the risk. If you don't know what risks there are out there, it's really hard to take the right decisions. So we believe that all organizations should be aware of the top risks. Because the top risk is what's determined. You don't need to follow up on all risks. You don't need to check the oil pressure all the time, because you could have a control on the oil pressure in the car. You can have a control in your organization. So you know that if it's not compliant, if it's not working properly, then you're going to be alerted that this has to be taken seriously. This is a risk we have to consider, and then we have to take the right action. To win the race, it's about taking the right turns, and for an organization, taking the right decisions. But it's not always the fastest, the shortest way that is the best way, because you also have to stay in compliance. There is a lot of regulations out there, and it's just growing, getting more and more regulations that organizations have to comply with. And these regulations are affecting the way of working, how to set up, and what you can do. And compliance is also about mindset in the organization, where if everybody understands why you have to be compliant to this regulation, it's of course business critical, and you will do the tasks and ensure that you are compliant without hesitation, and understand the why you should do it. So the why is really important to set to achieve this in an organization to work seamlessly. Then you have to design, and when we talk about designing workflows and what risks we are talking about, so there is a lot of risks in an organization, and it could be everything from earthquake to new technology to price drop or new competitors or new regulations. So of course you need to be aware of all the risks, but you should only take actions on the ones that really are affecting your business. The other ones you shouldn't spend time on. Especially pandemic is a risk that has affecting us tragically, even on a personal level, for a lot of people getting sick, but also the organizations has to deal with this. So it's a big risk. And all of these risks has to be managed somehow, and you will manage them in a way where you discover them, you have to identify them, to document them somehow so you know which they are, and then you will assess them in a likelihood, how big is the chance that or risk that it will appear, and the impact it has on the business, to be able to take the correct actions. And then you of course want to monitor these in a heat map, for example. And this is something that you need to do all the time. And everybody's doing risk assessments all the time, but maybe they're not documented and they may not be managed the way it's supposed to. And take actions, it's a different way to take actions on this, because you might want to mitigate the risk, to take an action to just lower the risk. You accept the risk, you want to live with the risk, it's okay, we can handle this. Or you transfer the risk, you move it somewhere else, for example with an insurance. Or you avoid the risk by not going in that direction. We're not going to make business in this area or whatever. So this is 4 ways to take action and manage your risk. A good example of transferring risks is Wimbledon, that actually transferred the risk of that they had to close down the competition for a pandemic. So they took an insurance and paid $2 million a year for 17 years for that, which is 34 million. But this year it turned out to be good, and they have got a payout for 141 million. So that was one good way of transferring risk, just as an example. So enhancing risk, your risk management and compliance is not only about the risk, because there are tons of other components that are affecting these risks. To be able to deal with them, you have so many different components affecting it. First of all, you have the regulations that I mentioned, and they're just growing in numbers. I heard that in the last 10 years, if you print out all the new regulations within Europe and put them on a pile, it would be the same height as the Eiffel Tower. So it's a lot of regulations, and the authorities is just trying to cope with all the new technology and just handing out more and more regulations that are affecting the business. And then, of course, you have your own policies that might be based on regulations or set up because the way you're gonna manage your work and govern your work. And you have a component, maybe you want to check that everybody has read and understood the policy. And these policies and regulations could be broken down to citations, that could be broken down to controls to really control that. Are we doing all of these things? And of course, you have your risks that you want to be aware of. And you want to assess these controls and risks and put indicators on them if they, with a set value to see if they are need attention or not. And you need mitigation activities, and if something fails, it will cause an issue that you need to deal with. And of course, you have your incidents that you register, and these are also affecting the risk. If you have a lot of incidents, it's called risk events service now, and you might have complaints and audit. My point is, with all of these components, is that this is what you have to deal with daily, and they're all connected to each other, and it's quite complex structure to manage. And this is something the organization are facing today everywhere in all industries. And it's not, then you have all of these components connected to each other, but you also need to know where in the organization this risk or this policies, who is it affecting? You need to put owners on them. Someone has to take responsibilities for all this. You want to be able to follow up. Is this completed? Have you done this? And then you might do an audit and see that, oh, did we do this properly, or this is a fault? You need traceability. And you might want to have your risk aggregation to get a report. Because what we're achieving here is actually to get an overview of all of these tasks and components that are included in risk management and compliance, that to take the right actions, to take the right decisions. And today, if you look in an organization, what we run into in our experience is that a lot of times it looks like this. This is the current state. It's hard to get the oversight, and you're working in, a lot of organizations are working in silos, and it's not an effective way of managing all of these components. It takes a lot of time, it wastes resources, and it's a lot of duplication, poor integration. And of course, this is not an effective way of working. To enhance this, we're all looking at to go to the future state, which would be an integrated way where all of these components are seamlessly interacting, and you can follow up the top risk on a top level. So now we'll try to send out the poll. Janet, can you launch the poll for me?
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you
Perfect.
see it now? Great.
I can see it. And so this is the poll, just asking you if you would answer this, that how would you rate your organization's maturity right now? Is it immature, that you work in Excel with some basic processes and kind of silos? Or if you have it moderate, you have quite mature processes, but you're still in Excel or not in a system, or you're mature with a system support with mature, or you don't know. Did I miss one? I don't know. Anyway, you can read the options, and it would be interesting to see what your level is. And maybe you don't know. It's just to get a hunch of what the audience are achieving.
So 3 out of 7 participants voted. So all 4, great. You can also vote anonymously if you like, of course. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Perfect.
And share results. Can you see the results?
Yeah, I can see it. If you ask me, yeah, I saw the results. So that's great. We can see that some are working in Excel and might see the same problems, and it's some persons that are working with the system support and have mature processes. That's great. Thanks a lot. It's not here anymore?
It's not here anymore.
Okay, it's gone. Okay, so depending on where you are in your maturity, you have to have the right mindset, and you need the design, and of course you need a technology to make it work. And when we look at the technology, we talk about ServiceNow, which is a modern great platform where we are today looking at the risk and compliance. I will not go through all the abilities with the platform itself. We will focus on the module risk and compliance today. And moving to a platform or enhancing your risk and compliance, if you're starting with Excel and Mail and PowerPoint, where it's quite manual, of course you have to take all of these 3 pillars into consideration, and just the first step to move into a system, it's quite a big step and gives quite a lot of effects. So we will take it step by step when we're helping customers to move into a platform. And this would be the first step, just to set up the risk universe in the system, to have common terminology, to have the controls and dashboards, and get reports in a system. It's not on a high level, but just to get your scoring of your risks in a system, and so you can get reports on a dashboard, and not having to do this manually is a big achievement. And you come pretty far maturing while you're doing this, setting it up in the system, because you have to be all your processes are going to get aligned also when you're setting it up in a system. So just the basic IRM is a big first, it's a step that actually gives a lot of outcome. And then of course you could, in the platform, mature a little bit more and have automated risk aggregation, and you can have continuous monitoring and have a mobile integration, and you follow everything up. And this is an example of that, when you have the real numbers in the risk assessments calculated automatically, set up in a structure, so you always can see your ALE, which is the annual loss expectancy, and you can set your tolerances on different levels, so you can get if it's unacceptable or acceptable, to monitor this all the time. When something happens, if control fails, you can automatically right away see how it affects the risks on your dashboard, and you can focus on the ones that are unacceptable and needs attention or acceptable. This is a way to improve your risk management in a good way, which is activated by ServiceNow in this way. And of course, what most of us are striving for is to have this advanced automation, where everything that could be done automatically should be done automatically. And this is this is something that David Hybon is going to talk about a little bit more, how you can do this and how you can look in the future and see where can we use all of this new technology to enhance GRC even further. And this is something that ServiceNow is really focused on, and that's why we like to work with ServiceNow, because they're always striving to enhancing the functionality and improving the work with GRC or IRM in the future. So to summarize this, we think it's important when you implement that you have the right mindset in organization, set the expectations correct. If everybody is aware of why you're doing it, it's going to be a lot easier, and you're going to have a lot better way of working. And like the race car team, they're all aware of why they are doing everything, so that's why they're doing all the manual tasks. Then of course you have to design and structure efficient and user-friendly workflows. This is important, that everybody can work easy and not overdoing anything that could be done in an efficient way in a system instead of doing it manually. And using the right technology, enable system support to manage and automate. All of these three is when they're working together in a project and we're helping customer, you can achieve enhanced risk management in a good way. And when we are doing this with customers and looking at them, we have some key takeaways. First of all, follow up on data you take decision on. This is important, to not overdo anything. To my experience, a lot of times the risk organizations are following up on data. They're not really, if no one is taking a decision on it, if it's not really matter, why should anyone follow up on it? Don't focus on the important data, and a good way of looking at it, if the board or someone in a decision position is taking decisions on it, it's important. Otherwise, maybe you could leave it. Or if a regulation is, of course, demanding it that you should do it, that's a different story, because you want to stay compliant. And take it step by step. Even if you're immature, you grow and mature step by step. Don't try to go to machine learning right away from Excel. It's going to be a huge step that it's really hard to manage and implement, and it's easy to get stuck in the way. So take it step by step and align your processes. Something, especially if you work in Excel, it's not always that all organizations, to my experience, have aligned the processes. They work a little bit different in different organizations or in different parts. And this is something that you run into when you're trying to set it up in a system that actually demands that you're going to work the same way all over the organization. And all of a sudden you have to make a project just to align the process. How are we doing this? So align the processes in advance, or have it as a first step of an implementation. Is going to make the implementation a lot easier. And of course, we could help with that to take it in the right steps. And then mature with a system implementation. Sometimes I've been talking to people that say, well, we're not mature enough to have a system. And I agree that sometimes, I mean, if you're a really small organization and everybody knows everybody, maybe you don't need a system. But if you're quite advanced, I think to set up in a system will also make you mature within your GRC. Maturity will increase. It's a good way of maturing, is to implementing a system, because you're forced to take certain decisions and forced to align your processes. You're forced to do a lot of tasks that are actually going to improve your and mature your implementation. And then, yeah, use modern technology that enables you to enhance even further. It's the question is hardly ever if a system is something that will be good for an organization to work with these questions. The question is rather, yeah, but how should we do it, and what system should we use? And I strongly recommend to even look at, even if you have your demand is managed by a system that you can set up a risk universe and you can do your assessments from your day-to-day, from your Excel work. Well, maybe you want to enhance even further and take advantage of all the new technologies and functionalities. Then you have to be on a platform that enables you to enhance your work. So this kind of wraps up my slides, and we're gonna move over to, I'm gonna hand over to David pretty soon. So, and he's gonna talk about ServiceNow, that is compliance and a market leader in this area, and he's gonna talk a little bit why. So I hand over to you, David.
Thank you, Petter. I hope you can all hear me. My name is David Hyborn. I'm the sales lead for what we do in the space of governance, risk and compliance at ServiceNow. I cover the Nordics. And for the next minutes, I will talk about how technology is helping organizations to transform GRC. So just will share my screen, hold on. Hope you're able to see this. So why is it important to transform GRC? Well, I think Petter mentioned already some of the things, but the world is not the same since 2002, because that is when most of these products on the market arised. It was in conjunction with Sarbanes-Oxley, I would say. And obviously there were cyber risks and stuff already by then, you know, that's very clear. But the volumes, the data volumes and everything that we do have been multiplied or been increased with magnitude since then. And I think that just the digital transformation of almost everything, not just on what we do with, in regards to customers and the processes being externally, but also internally in the organizations, you know, it has created a risk depth. That's not it's no doubt about that. There's also a lot of the new regulations, and some of the sectors out there are more in pain than others. And I think that just due to this, the digital transformation, there are also new risks that probably people have not considered before. And just as a result of all these changes coming from IT every day is a large threat, of course, and something that needs to be dealt with in an efficient way. The traditional way, and I think we already talked about that as well, has been about compliance attestations, which basically could mean that you ask the business, or there's a control owner once a year, is the control working? And this is done by sending a form or Excel spreadsheet, or could even be a system, but it's more like filling in a form. And to me, and maybe I'm a little bit biased here, but I think that's pretty lame to ask them once a year if this is working, because things are happening, and things are happening fast in this new reality. So of course we need to be compliant, but I think that by the way that we've been working on these things, to be honest, I don't think that we have brought that much of value to the business by helping them making decisions. I can't really say that. So I also think that that's the reason why many GRC teams are struggling to engage the business around risks. And Petter and I was just talking before this session about all the millennials out there who's now starting to work in our workspaces and organizations, and they just take for sure that everything is real time. You know, when they order a taxi, they just order the taxi that could provides the transparency on where is my taxi. Will it be here it will be here in 3 minutes and 40 seconds. that's the kind of consumerization I get the standards are set to for the moment. All right, so how could a modern GRC solution help the business then to detect and visualize the risk much faster, but also helping to make the right decisions? And there are some areas here or technology themes where I think that really the modern GRC solutions are making a difference. And it's first of all the integrations and how to embed the risk and controls in real time to actually being able to detect when something is happening, not asking 9 months later if everything is according to plan, but actually understanding when it happens. It's also about the user experience. And I think that we need to sort of make sure that this can't be something that is meant for a few experts, because then our stakeholders and the business will never get interested. It has to be a modern user experience that provides value to them in their daily work. And these guys are not, of course, they're not living and dying for security or for risk. The third theme is obviously AI and machine learning, and it's sort of impacting everything, and it's just the way we think things are being progressed. And here it is really about how could we support the user with the analysis and the suggestions. I'll come to that later. So I'll spend a few minutes on each of these topics and give you some examples. Integration. We talk about something called continuous monitoring, which is the indicators to be embedded in the business process. And you can just look at in this example, a bank and the lending process, which is seen in green. You have the client onboarding process, you have the loan organization, can't even spell it, loan maintenance, and so on. And there is a lot of things that are controls and risks mitigation built into this process by just asking these questions. But since this is already digitalized in most cases, that, for example, within banking, know your customer and GDPR controls, that is something that we could map into by using indicators. This is something that absolutely will be key in order to react and understand when things are happening. So something that will mean that as soon as a control will fail for an individual transaction, that will be highlighted. And as soon as a key risk indicator, which means that the risk threshold or the risk level goes up over a level that we can't accept, that will also be communicated or visualized. So this is the integration part. Next thing is user experience. And of course, I see some examples where the business don't even know that there is a portal for GRC, and they just visit it once a year. So it's almost a little bit funny how it's turned out. So first of all, I think it's key to have things like GRC to be integrated for the business user in the very same service management portal that's used in the organization. But I think that portals are starting actually to be a little bit, I would say, dated for some use cases. What you can see on the right here is actually a dialogue with a chatbot, a virtual agent, as we call it in ServiceNow language, which means that there's a bot who's able to understand natural language that you type and read. And you can actually not just ask for guidance, it will also help you to actually initiate a certain process or a task. And what's even cooler is that this isn't something that you don't need to put in the portal. We're doing this in one of your favorite communication or collaboration channels, like, for example, Teams or Slack. And this is, I think, is so much more efficient than asking someone to look into a portal and providing with a lot of information how to train them how to use the portal, when this can be all done in the very same Slack channel as you may be using today. A lot of things will happen here, that's for sure. And this is also, unless you haven't seen it, that Salesforce actually acquired Slack last night. And you can just imagine why this is happening. We're agnostic, of course. We support Teams as much as Slack. So next thing is machine learning and artificial intelligence. I think there's some good examples here in the GRC space. And first of all, issue management is such an important topic, and I think that Petter mentioned that as well. There are always issues. Issues can be reported in many ways. Issues can be a consequence of an audit. Issues could be also a result of a control failure. But during this process, looking at those issues, I think it's a great thing that we can have the system to predict who to send, who should deal with this issue. Because in many cases, we don't really know. Machine learning will start to learn, we start to understand, we can train the system in order to understand where should we assign the task for a certain type. And we can also help the system will also help us to actually group the similar issues all together. That's not just the only thing, because when the task owner will start to work on it, it will also help provide suggestions on what are the things that you probably should do in regards to this particular remediation task. Another great example, and this is not future, this is available as of today. And I think that just for issue management, such a super important thing. We acquired a company called Element AI yesterday, one of the largest AI companies, I would say, it was still a startup, but 250 people. So we're now ramping up even more our capabilities in this space. So much more to come. And I think that what we're looking into is actually have to allow AI to build the workflows in real time for us, which is kind of mind breaking, but that's the way everything is going, of course. All right, so ServiceNow has a full, I would say, portfolio of different risk and compliance components, and this is not the right time to walk them talk them through, but policy, compliance, and risk and audit, of course, are fundamental pillars. Vendor risk, business continuity, yeah, it all fits together, and it's all on the very same platform as if you have ServiceNow. So it connects to all the incidents, it connects to all the things, and the asset management system of yours, so we can start to work on having the very same map. Well, that was what I had on my mind. Not too much, but a little bit of an idea of how these new technologies are really improving what the capabilities of these kind of technologies.
Thank you so much, both David and Petter, and for all you listening in, thank you so much for doing just that. And if you have any additional questions for our speakers, please write them in the chat box now. I have received 2 anonymous questions. The first one is directed to you, David, where this person writes, it's always about both people, process, and technology. Do you see this to require GRC teams to be organized differently?
Yes, I guess so. I think one thing when the controls and risks are much more automated, it also means that the third line of defense will actually do more of a job to actually verify that not only that the controls are effective, but that the way they've been set up with this concept of continuous monitoring, that the design of that control, of that indicator is also correct. So I think that and this is what I hear from customers, that they will probably spend what they gain in efficiency is something also that they need to compensate for by putting more efforts into the audit part. That's an immediate one that gets to my mind.
Yeah, and I agree that to manage and see that the controls are really effective is getting more important, of course, if you automate it. But also, I think a lot of the entire second line could work a lot more on questions that how they could improve instead of just gathering data and just making sure that everybody's doing their tasks, which is it's a huge burden for them today to collect and gather and see that everything is done. But if you automated it, they could focus on decisions and how to improve things, and then of course they need to guarantee that the controls are effective if you're setting up them. But that's tools for that as well, isn't it? Probably, or with the machine learning.
Great. And the second and the final question I have so far is, if you're already using ServiceNow for IT, how complicated is it to start using IRM/GRC?
I could start off with that question. We have several customers, of course, using IRM on the platform. And the benefit from doing that is that you have already your full set of foundation data, hopefully your CMDB and your IT services and other services which you want to apply IRM and GRC on. On the other hand, if you use a point solution for a GRC, for example, then you have all that work to set up additionally and do the integrations. And we always like to say that as a partner, Sofigate and ServiceNow work better together. That's also true for the different processes on the platform. Adding another area or process on the platform is relatively quick compared to implementing a new point solution, because you already have everything in place. That's the short answer. I don't know if you want to add something, David.
No, I think that you covered most of it. Time to market and time to productivity.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that was all the questions. Thank you so much for listening in. Also good to know for all you participants is that we will be sending out a recording of this webinar. If you'd like to send this to your peers or somebody else that might find the content helpful, please do that. Other than that, thank you so much, and stay tuned for our upcoming webinars.
You have our email addresses here on the screen. If there's something you would like to discuss when it comes to the how and the what and the why that we've discussed today, but feel free to reach out afterwards. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.